Welcome, welcome everybody. My name is Janie Lavelle from Sage and Seer. I'm here in my emporium and today we are going to be chatting to the amazing Reeta Pohjonen from Helsinki in Finland, and just such a treat. Reeta was actually a guest on my show a couple of years ago. So warm welcome back, Reeta, and we are going to have such a good chat today. We've been working together for the last few years. We have done some triturations together. We've made a few different remedies, and Reeta has been a homeopath for quite a few years now. She's also a Shiatsu practitioner. She's a Sufi, what do you call it, Hannah? Sufi?
Mystic.
Mystic. And I mean, she's just got so many feathers to her bow. It's going to be a really, really beautiful chat. I hope everybody enjoys it and sit back and relax. And Reeta, welcome to the show, honey. So good to have you here.
Thank you so much, Janie. I feel honored to be here and to share all the wisdom that we've done together and all the wisdom before. And I am really ready to start.
Oh, and happy birthday. Reeta just turned 50. So we're celebrating such a milestone together. We were messaging all weekend. Reeta had like a 3 or 4 day long party and just such a beautiful celebration with her family and friends. And you know, it's a time in our lives where we're really starting to flourish and come into our, you know, our full kind of bloom and be able to sit and chat and share all the wisdom that we've learned along the way. So Reeta, you're just so inspirational. You know, you're really, really kind of swept me off my feet and just given me so much encouragement already in my journey with homeopathy. So I'm just so pleased to have you back on the show. And I just want to hear now all about, you know, I guess there's a lot of buzz around, you know, homeopathic remedies at the moment and how they're made, and the trituration process is something that is really, I think in a lot of homeopaths, they're starting to connect with the making of remedies much more and doing provings, because there's so much new remedies that are coming out at the minute. As humanity is evolving, all these remedies are starting to come much more into the front so that we can use them to help people heal. So yeah, what's your, you know, what's your background a little bit? How did you get into doing the triturations? If you want to hear about how Reeta got into homeopathy, I'll link in the old interview that we did, but just how did you get into the triturations and what are they, you know, for our viewers? Maybe explain them slightly.
So when I was studying homeopathy, I started in 96. And so my thesis was about cyanobacteria, so the blue algae. And that was my first proving. So I guess then already I jumped into the world of provings because when I was 20, I was studying shamanism and comparative religion. And the proving part really like touched me. And then a little bit later, I got to meet Alice Timmerman and Vanessa Parado in 2006 in Finland, and they were doing triturations. So I jumped straight into the world of triturations. And naturally, I've been doing provings also. I did the Dynamis school, advanced school twice. So, you know, we were doing hafnium and honey together with Camilla and Jeremy Sher. The trituration process always for me, I'm a Materna yoga instructor, and how I learned to be one was by going deep inside and listening. I've been pregnant 4 times. That's all about going deep inside and listening. And I also felt it was a really feminine way of making remedies.
Yeah.
So I've done quite a few remedies, and today I'll just focus on the birds.
Lovely. Yes,
bird watcher.
I know. We're such bird ladies.
We're such bird ladies. It has to do with teaching, about sharing. At the moment, my apartment is on the 5th floor. I call it, you know, the eagle's nest here. Thanks to Halietus albicella that we just did our last bird.
Yeah.
So I started with the Transformational School of Homeopathy Helsinki that has now changed the name into Homeopathy School Helsinki to simplify. But two of my students started with the first bird, that was the black swan, Cygnus altrus.
Yes.
So Camilla
Say
Scheer
again, say the Latin name again.
Cygnus altrus.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Amazing. What year was that, Reeta?
That was 2010. 2010, okay. 2012. Yeah, something like that. So Camilla Scheer had earlier done the white swan, but we felt a really big pull towards the black swan. And since the white swan was done in Finland, in the Finnish mythology Kalevala, swan is one of the, potent and one of the mystical animals. The owl is there and the eagle is there.
Yeah.
So the black swan was also about grief like the white one, but it was more about being left out, being the third party. And, definitely, like the grief and the heartbreak, devastated one was there very strongly. And then most probably because I pretty much started doing the birds, teaching them at school, inspiring the students. So the students wanted to do as their thesis also provings.
Oh, lovely.
So the next one that came was the wood grouse. It's a black, really big bird. And it was done from the feather of a male that was mating.
Oh, wow.
So, it's lux vomica, human semana, potens to the 100,000 or something. So yes. It's all about, whatever. All we wanted to do was eat pizza, drink beer, and, make business that is unethical.
Oh, wow. Yeah, of course. Because he was getting ready to, take on his lady.
So big, testosterone boost and everything.
Yes, of course. Yeah, and such a sacred bird in Native America, India as well. It's like the bird that brings the sacred spiral, isn't it? The grouse.
Yeah.
That's so interesting because for those of you watching that don't know, the substances are taken and placed into a pestle and mortar with some milk sugar. And then the process is not just mathematical and mechanical, it's also magical that follows when you triturate. So you have to grind the substance for 7 minutes and then you scrape for 3 minutes. And this goes on for quite some time. And as you're doing this process, the energy of the substance is released and the people that are there start to feel get symptoms, physical, mental, emotional symptoms, and you're taking notes and keeping like an eye on what's happening for people. So because that grouse was in his his height, wasn't he? It kind of then it showed in the proving when you guys were doing the trituration, that energy came through.
And it's kind of like, because there are many different types of provings in homeopathy, the trituration process is like a sacred circle because we do it together. And mostly it is so that the person who is, hosting it knows the remedy and the other people don't. And they just take notes. It's kind of like if you want to know what a bird thinks, put a little bit of the bird. The feather is the easiest, because we cannot harm, the animals. For doing this, put it in a mortal and the bird will start talking.
Yeah.
Because the next one that we went into was the, Sami indigenous people of Finland, their holy bird, the Siberian jay.
Yes, yeah.
So it's very typical of the Siberian jay up in Lapland, where you sit around fire, it comes and begs for food. Okay. So it's kind of like, it's not afraid of people. And, it's beautiful orange tail and so on. But what we didn't know is that it's a huge Alzheimer remedy, because all of us lost our memory.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I mean, like completely for quite some time. And we wanted to go out and beg. we really thought we're going to try how is it to be a beggar, because we felt so, for people, for refugees who go from place to place, it really connected us, to the essence of not having anything. And, we really wanted to, feel it, to really fully understand what it means to be a beggar or a refugee.
Wow.
And another spice that came there, which was like, what? Because sometimes and often in the triturations, something weird comes up. Great Gatsby. The movie, and the eyeglasses of the doctor from the movie, who's read the book or the movie, I had when I was younger. And of course, eyes have to do with birds and vision. And plus, Great Gatsby is the opposite of begging, because that's the extravaganza of money and glitter and party and so on.
Yeah, exuberance and abundance, wealth. Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Huge
so
opposite.
The flip side, and that's often we find that in remedies, there's a polarity.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. And your family is Sami. You come from the north originally, don't?
I come from the north, but I'm not Sami.
Okay. Yeah. You come from the north. Oh, so it's like almost like the Sami is like a kind of a tribe.
Yeah, they are like the indigenous, Maori people, or and they live much more further up north. It's like 1,200 kilometers north, and it's mostly like the 300 upper kilometers, and I'm from 800 kilometers.
Okay, yeah. And so the Siberian blue jay is it quite an abundant species in the north? There's lots of them. Do they eat them as well? I know they're only small birds. Okay.
No, they are pretty small.
Yeah.
They are bigger than sparrows, but they are not a big bird. No, they are not eaten, and they are quite a few. There, and of course through all of Norway and Sweden and Siberia and so on. So they are like Arctic birds. We don't see them down here in Helsinki, for example.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Amazing. And then from that you followed into.
From there, I have to think, because there were many plants and minerals and things in between. But yes, Peacock. I grew up in Ethiopia. And the flamingos always were like, what is this species and how come it's so pink and all of these things. So when I was in Ethiopia around 2014, I brought a flamingo feather from one of the alkalic lakes over there in Rift Valley. And we did, with a small group of people, the proving of flamingo. And actually in 2012, we did it in Norway, also in Jeremy Scher's seminar, with a little group of dynamics people. So I've done it twice. And it's the craziest bird, because it doesn't have a brain of its own. And sorry, flamingos, if you do, but it's like we were just following each other, and we would get lost because we would follow the person in front of us.
Oh, wow.
And we'd want to stand on our head all the time, like upside down. Things were upside down. And we would stand with one leg and have the other leg on the top of it, like on a yoga pose, and just hanging around like that with a really good posture. And then the 90s, the music of the 90s. And, it was crazy because it was all about, I can't remember now, this Miami Vice and these kinds of,
Oh, yes. Miami Vice, yeah.
Cover colors and, like crazy and party and without really thinking at all.
Okay, yeah.
And then, of course, there was themes of love, because many times, they come as, like this, and, it's kind of like this pink, looking at life through pink glasses. And then an older lady, Marilena Heikkinen, who is really my big teacher and my first homeopath, she said one day that I want to have a little bit of fun. Let's do the peacock.
Oh, wow.
So also the peacock feather was taken, actually it was taken from the zoo outside Helsinki, but they are like free peacocks over there. And they go around, and it was also in May. So, it was the time when they really want to show themselves off. And it was the funniest. It was the craziest. We were laughing, we were having fun, and it was about mating, and it was about, dressing up as colorful as possible. It was the feminine version, in my opinion, of the wood grouse. So, it was like, if you look at the Maharajas in India who are in a luxurious palace, and, they just want to be there, eating the grapes or whatever, mangoes coming out. And, we just had such a, it was very very abundant. Definitely what to do with that.
And that was also, you triturated the feather for that one too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That kind of feeds into how they are, when they're getting the tail feathers out and just kind of standing there fanning them around, and they're abundant in New Zealand as well, the peacocks, because the Maori people use them to make their cloaks with.
Okay.
For the chief's cloaks. So, they're used a lot for that as well in New Zealand. In fact, they have become a bit of a pest there, and they eat more grass than the sheep do. So for a while, my sister used to have to go and cull them. She had a group of people, and they're amazing birds. There's no way you can shoot them in the day. You have to wait for them to be roosting. Because they're so clever. They're so clever, so stealthy. And they had such an amazing team. They would get the birds, wait for them to roost, kill them, and then every part of that bird was utilized. All the flesh was divided up amongst the hunters. The feathers went to another friend of ours, Mawera, and she set up a company selling the feathers. And all the stuff that was left then got fed to the pigs. So, it might sound like it was quite, full on, but that the bird was. In New Zealand, they say karakia, which is a prayer. So there's always a prayer made for the birds. Like, I think that's important for people to understand as well when we're doing triturations. It's sacred medicine. All the triturations that Reeta and I have done have been held this way, where we are sitting in circle, like she said, we're saying a prayer, we're connecting with the energy. It's very shamanic process. It's not like you're just, right, let's do this. We make some offerings. It's very ceremonial, and there's lots of prayers said and connections made. So it's very special process, isn't it, Reeta, that happens.
And then we go into the owl, which I was so happy to get. There are some feathers over here. This is the leftover of the snowy owl, Ulus scandinavicus. I started studying astrology, and then I started studying astrosophy, which is like a living instrument. And there is the constellation of the owl over there. And I was going to Tanzania and to Zanzibar, and I just wanted to, make offerings of the owl to the land, to the sacred land, to the land of the Maasai, and so on. And then I went to Camilla Seer and Jeremy Seer's Homeopathy for Health in Africa, and she said, would you teach our staff and the homeopaths over here trituration? And I said, well, why not? Of course. And then I was like, substance, because I was carrying it. Thank you, Janie. I was carrying
You're welcome.
And then I talked to Jeremy, and then I said, he said, what's the substance? And I said, the snowy owl. And he was like, oh, that's really my favorite. And I was like, so it is mine. So I was
me
happy
too.
to bring it over there. But the thing is that, Tanzanians are really afraid of owls, which I didn't know. And the group of people that we did the trituration were really a little bit shocked afterwards to hear that we did it from the owl, because the owl is the one that brings the messages from behind the veil.
Yes. Yeah.
And I saw a dream where Camilla and I were in a library that was really colorful, and there was a door, and I knew the door is to the other side of the veil. to where dead people are, or spirits or ancestors, whatever we want to call it. And I said, of course, I'm going to go there. And I went, and the only difference was that the shades of the colors were different of the book. So the library would continue with a little bit slighter colors.
Okay, so this was during the trituration.
Yes.
In Africa, yeah.
And at the same time, the Akashic records, whoever wants to believe in our soul prints, they just opened. So, you know, the owl has the wisdom of the here and the now and of the beyond.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's really like the wisdom keeper. It's something to do with teachers, and it just brings you the wisdom from the spirits.
Yeah,
so I
from the other
started
side.
working, you know, a lot with ancestors, and because my oldest son Amadeus left, you know, a little bit before that, like a year before the owl trituration, I got him closer. And you know, it was also a big grief remedy for me, which I found out. For example, the eagles are as big in grief as the swans, which many don't know. For my own experience.
Yes, yeah, yeah. Me too. Yeah, we can go into that with the Albacilla, because that was massive.
And around the same time, you know, one of my biggest teachers about birds was Jonathan Shore. So sending a lot of greetings with the owl to Jonathan, who is on the other side. So, you know, I always remember, because he did his trituration, the book on the birds, on the Californian, you know, Pacific Ocean. And I've gone the route 1-2 times with my big brother who used to live there. And I used to watch the pelicans and all the birds that he was triturating on the beach. So he was around this time. He was the last to go. But then we had Peter Frazier, who's also written a book about the birds. He was a bird man. And then, of course, lovely Misha Norland. Yeah. You know, so I dedicate all of these to those big teachers that we have before us.
Yeah, absolutely. Amazing books. Just, keepsakes. These are really remarkable homeopaths that Reeta's talking about that have recently passed, and they've done so much work on bird remedies for us and just brought to life so much information. So yeah, when we lose homeopaths, you know, that have brought so much work and experience to us, it's nice to kind of dedicate our ongoing work to them. And the owl opened up so many doors for Reeta. I did it came through on a healing session we had, and I sent the feather to Finland, and this was the start of our connection. And that owl has taken flight, and Reeta's proving, and the trituration they did in Tanzania, it was really incredible, powerful on so many levels, and has led us on to do further provings, which we're going to talk a little bit now about. Maybe we can go into Raven, because I had a dream one night to send Reeta a feather from my local woods here, where there was a nesting pair of ravens, and I used to walk my dogs, and they would always call to me. So I asked them one day if I could have some feathers, and my husband actually found them a couple of days later. And I said, okay, one of these is for Reeta, and sent that out to her. And I think you did the trituration in the school. Is that right?
No, I did it with deep tea.
With deep tea. Yes, deep tea. Good. Yeah. And for Reeta, that was you guys had an okay, beautiful time with that trituration, didn't you?
Well, because I was friends with death. And actually, frankly, I've had the Corvus as a remedy earlier. So it was like I knew about it. And plus, in my mystical astrosophy, the raven is the wild card. So I love to work with it. Anytime I wanted a big shift, I used the raven. So what I did was, I remember that Pluto was retrograde in the autumn of 2022.
Yeah, it was last year. Yeah.
2022. Yeah. And I had a week where I started with one funeral.
That's
one
right.
of my ex-mothers-in-law. And I ended it with another funeral and with burlesque, and in the middle doing the raven trituration together with Deepti, who is really like a sacred woman who is working with the Finnish Kalevala and the sacred women here, Pyhänainen Academy and so on. And that was her first trituration because she wanted to jump into the world of triturations. So we really dove very ceremonially together. And it was just the two of us. And, we always make a C1, a C2, C3, C4. So actually in C3, her husband Mika joined us. And, it was all about going into the underworld, into Hades or, Manala or whatever, in whichever country you want to call it, and coming up into the light. It was about God, it was about Jesus, it was about Lucifer, the light bringer, bringing himself, wanting to be shown and wanted to be recognized, because the raven is often treated really bad, and the raven is a wise one. Yeah,
it's interesting because myself and my friend Sheila did the trituration after we spoke about it. You said, right, you need to do it in Ireland. So I was in Helsinki and I came back to Ireland, and Sheila and myself did C1 and C2. And for us in those first 2 rounds, we lost the ability to talk properly. We couldn't write. Our writing was all scrawled. It was very difficult to kind of communicate. We kept laughing at each other. And then also a few days later, when we did the C3, another friend joined us as well. And immediately when we started the trituration, she had to lie down. She got a return of old pains. Her back got sore, her hip got sore, her knees got sore. And myself and Sheila had no empathy at all for her. We just were laughing at her. It was like the hierarchy that exists within the Raven family was so apparent in that moment. We were like, look at you down there. You're stuck on the ground. You can't get up. And so all this kind of stuff we're taking notes of. Eventually, when we got to C4, Katrina suddenly sat up and was like, right, I'm going to look down on you guys. She built a huge stack of pillows up against the wall, and she sat and she was towering over us then, looking down on us, thinking how amazing she was. And, all of this was like, okay, we can see what's happening in the remedy. Very much so for us as well. During that process, there was a lot of light and dark, the feminine, the masculine, the balance that exists in society and how it's really shifting at the moment. That became really, really apparent for us as well. Following that proving, though, also, yes, Pluto in returns, and I had to contact Liz Norman because it really affected me so badly. The raven really made me address all my shadows. It was like I was forced, to look so deep inside myself. And often when you do the trituration, it is the medicine that you need yourself. And it can bring up, difficult things, even physical symptoms. You can experience things that aren't necessarily what you want. And Raven was like this for me. And Liz said, oh my God, Janie, if you want to get through this, you have to go right to the back of the cave, literally what you were saying, because if you don't go into the dark fully, you're not going to be able to find the light again. And for me, it was like 8 weeks of hell. My own homeopath wanted to antidote the proving. And I said, no, I have to go through this. This is part of my personal journey. And that remedy now, for me, the words despair was so apparent, and I will see that now in clients who are coming through the door. It was so much about the nest, having the house right, your home right, the balance in the house within all the family members. It was a really, really hard time. And I think from chatting to you, Reeta, during that time, and my homeopath Ali, and of course Liz, eventually I came through it, and we decided we would do the sea eagle following that that trituration. And Reeta and I had connected. Dipti, who she had also done Raven with, had invited us to come to her house to do this trituration. And I was still in the energy of Raven, and I was like,
Yeah.
I can't go. I can't go. And I remember you messaging me saying, you better not pull out. You're coming. You're coming. And yeah, I went to Helsinki, and we went actually right to the west of Finland to do the trituration for Heliatus albacilla. And this remedy now we know is almost going to lift somebody out of the raven state. And for me, that's exactly what it did. And this was such potent medicine, wasn't it, Reeta?
Yeah.
It was a feather that was found, so it was from a wild eagle, opposed to, we have a remedy, Heliatus leucocephalus, which is a bald eagle, American bald eagle, but this eagle was in captivity. So when you're working, like I said, with a substance, it does, we found with the wild, you know, the eagle, the sea eagle, the energy was completely different. And that was reflected in the trituration process that the four of us did. It was incredible. So much stuff came through. We have to finish writing it up, but we will eventually publish all the information that we've found. But how did you find, Reeta, the transition from raven into eagle?
Well, when my son left, I was given Halietus leucocephalus, and I also took the Himalayan eagle.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I got it from Antoinette McQueenie. Thank you very much, because it really brought me to a brighter, because the birds have a bird view, which is also quite typical for me, to look at things a little bit from the higher perspective. And it also brought this spiritual alignment. So when we were doing the raven, Deepti's husband Mika had on the top of a door a huge feather, and I knew it's the eagle's feather. And I asked him, what is that? And he said, well, I found it on the west coast of Finland, where he's actually from, and where actually my ancestors are from. It's called Pohjanmaa. And I had been working a lot, especially with my father's father, and the heritage from there, because there's a lot of healing in his family, or healers. And when I heard that, I was like, can we make that remedy? I really want to make a Finnish sea eagle free remedy. And then, of course, contacting Janie, and everybody got all excited about it. And then I left to Tanzania, and then just as I came back, I was like, okay, ready to make this remedy. So Halietus leucocephalus is made out of the blood, so that makes a really different energy. It's very like, for us homeopaths who know, it's very like dark syphilitic, split, bipolar. It's got so much of the non-clarity. And then the Himalayan eagle, it's not a Halietus. I can't remember if it's an Agila, something.
It's a condor, or is this the Himalayan
condor
one?
Yeah. So the Agilas, I think, are condors. So, there was like more clarity and lightness, and, being able to shift you, from the splits. And this Halietus albicella and the eagle, again, coming back into the mystical astrosophy, it stands for, or the Agila as a sign stands for the gateway of divine presence. So, it is from up to down, and just bringing the light in and putting you into your highest potential. Yeah. So it's a really high frequency. I would say the diamond is a little bit similar, and it has to do with the gold.
Yes, that's right. Yeah,
So
yeah.
we had the molecular gold with us
Oh,
together with that, and the sacred masculine was starting to talk.
it really was.
So, we always work as, with the sacred feminine and with the wounded feminine and, with the red women and so on. And this eagle was there just like, no, don't forget about the sacred masculine.
Yeah.
I'm here.
Yeah.
And what
Very
the
much
sacred
so.
masculine does is, puts things into order. It has to be a yin and yang, the feminine is like a vessel that is just there providing and birthing worlds, but we need the light that comes in. And that was the Halietus albicella. And I moved home. Janie moved home. Both the two that we made were thinking about getting another nest somewhere. So it was also like putting things into order, that what is not working, fix it.
Yeah, Mika was up and down to Helsinki looking for his new studio, or will he leave his studio? There was a lot of stuff with, yes, the nest, of course. Yeah, yeah. And now you moved from the owl's nest to the eagle's nest.
Yes.
And I moved from 2 mobile homes into a house, and in front of me is the ocean and behind me is the mountains.
So you have the eagles, you have the ravens, you have the owls, you've got them all over there.
Very potent medicine for anybody out there who wants, if you're a homeopath and you want to get either of the triturations that Reeta and I have done, you can contact either one of us for these remedies. But as well, I think what was really interesting with the albicella was the energy of the Pleiades kept coming through, and there was a frequency of the number 7 there, and this emerged really, really quickly into C1, and it continued through the whole trituration process, which we went up to C5. And there was a huge connection with the star system for the sea
Orion. Orion was there too.
Yeah, and that's right. Yeah, and there was so much clarity for all of us during this proving. And I think one of the interesting things as well, one of the physical symptoms we all got was this immense hunger. Even though we'd all just eaten our dinner, by the time we got to the third trituration in C1, we were all starving again. And I started to triturate the bowl, and all we could hear out of the bowl was the squawking noise. And remember that? Yeah. And it was like all the chicks in the nest crying out, feed me, feed me. We all got very overwhelmed with hunger. The sound was intense. All of our ears were hurting. And then when I passed the bowl to Dipti, that totally stopped, because we'd all been eating nuts and food and chocolate. And those are the kind of things that happen during the process that we have an awareness around. It was a remedy that managed to elevate you and lift you out of that energy of despair, of the darkness that Raven had for me in particular anyway, and allow you to see things from a higher perspective and to bring that clarity. And like Reeta said, it had this energy that was very precise about it. Yeah, it was such a beautiful session, wasn't it?
It was.
Yeah.
And, being kind of like on the top of, like they say, the eagle is on the top of the food chain. And, on the top of the majestic, it was like, what to do next? Yeah. You've done something, and I'm thinking about the gold. Egypt is coming really strongly. But it was like so majestic, and it's kind of like, there is this saying when you do Sufi, sikras, there's this kun, which is to cut the bullshit, cut the ego, like go down into now.
Good.
And it's like, it's just such a bliss state to be in when everything else is like taken away, and you're just
you're present with the here and now.
Yeah. And that's health, isn't it?
That is health, yeah. That awareness, that consciousness, being, you know, being in your bones, in your body, in the moment. Yeah, it is. That's interesting, because I think our next remedy is already starting to birth, and it has a deep connection with Sea Eagle, and Reeta and I and a group of homeopaths are heading to France for the solstice this year, and we're going to do a living, walking trituration of a remedy when we're out there, which will be a continuation of our work. And I'm so excited for that because it's my birthday. So yeah, and we will be with Elise Timmerman, who just comes to us with so much experience and knowledge and wisdom to offer. And of course, the other homeopaths that are coming, myself and Antoinette McQueenie from Ireland, and the ladies coming from the school in Helsinki. And I think part of our journey there is also another project that Reeta and I are working on and birthing at the moment, which we'll be announcing at some stage. So that's going to be really, really exciting as well. And Reeta, is there anything else, you know, you want to share, any kind of words of wisdom before we wrap things up? And, you know, just, I guess if there's anybody out there watching, that has any questions, or is there any words of wisdom, you know, that you could offer to budding homeopaths or people who are thinking about, you know, maybe going to see a homeopath?
4 years ago, I just realized, before meeting you and Antoinette, I did the same journey that we are going to do this summer with Maria Magdalena. So these birds have been inside that journey. So let's see, you know, like, because when we go on a healing journey, we are always spiraling up.
Yeah.
And we are potentizing ourselves. And our awareness is growing.
Absolutely.
So the same, you know, when you put a remedy into the mortal and you start, you know, triturating, your own awareness, you know, healing happens when your awareness grows.
Yeah.
So all these remedies that are handmade, in my opinion, in my practice, when a person walks in, when a raven walks in, or when you know, an owl walks in, or when a peacock walks in, I know the energy. And I have used all of these remedies. And this is thanks to people who've done provings before, you know.
Yeah, of course.
Share, you know, Alice Timmerman, Jonathan Shore, so many of my teachers, our teachers, you know, that really, when you should, like, even Samuel Hahnemann says that you should know the remedies by yourself that you give to your clients.
Yeah, absolutely.
And of course, we need pharmacies, and, you know, it needs to be legal and all these kinds of things. But I personally, growing my own pharmacy of my own remedies has really made a huge difference.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think it's necessary. I know when I did, you know, Dynamis with Jeremy, he said it's a part of the training that is missing in some schools, you know, where they don't really learn to triturate or to do a proving. It's you know, it's so important. And even in that one, we did radon, and I had left Dynamis at that stage because it had gone online because of COVID, and I was still in the proving. I still got all the symptoms from radon. So, you know, it does extend out beyond what we know. And this is, I think we're living in a time now where all this stuff is being talked about so much. It's just awesome that the awareness is being raised on so many levels. And people like yourself, Reeta, who've been doing it for such a long time, you know, you have the ability to help us all learn from you, you know. So thank you so much for those words of wisdom. And yeah, just bringing us all these remedies and for sharing all your gifts and your healing with all the people that cross your path. You're an amazing woman, and I'm so, so blessed to have you in my life. So thank you so much for coming on the show today. Can't wait to see you in June.
Thank you, Janie. Our school is so happy to have you. My soul is so happy to have you. And the world is so happy to have you as such a huge healer.
Oh, thank you.
And anybody who wants to see a homeopath, listen to your heart, see who resonates, and jump into the journey. It is a journey you will never, ever regret.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. And thanks to everyone for watching and all your support. It's just amazing. Take care. Have a lovely day, everybody. Thanks, Emil. Bye.